अस्सलाम वालेकुम डियर फ्रेंड्स, होप सो यू ऑल विल बी डूइंग ग्रेट। एक दफ़ा फिर आपको बुक रिव्यू सीरीज़ में खुशामदीद कहते हैं और इसी सिलसिले में आज हमारे साथ मौजूद है मिस्टर शबीर हुसैन। मिस्टर शबीर हुसैन इंग्लिश डिपार्टमेंट के स्टूडेंट हैं और इनफैक्ट ही इज़ अ ग्रेट बिब्लियोफाइल। ही इज़ अ फॉन्ड ऑफ बुक रीडिंग। एक बेहतरीन बुक रीडर हैं, बुक्स पढ़ते हैं, बुक्स को समझते हैं और अपनी ही एक ओपिनियन को बिल्ड करते हैं। तो चलिए चलते हैं मिस्टर शबीर हुसैन की तरफ कि आज उसने कौन से बुक का इंतखाब किया है फॉर बुक रिव्यू। तो लेट्स गो टू मिस्टर शबीर हुसैन।
Thank you, Abdul. It's been a great initiative for you. You have taken. I think this videos will proliferate the skills, the learning skills, and and of course the speaking skill of the students. So let's come to the review of the book, which is a political autobiography by Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad. The title of the book is India Wants Freedom, which is a political autobiography. Actually, Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad was born in Mecca. He was an Islamic theologian and a great leader of Indian independence. He was a son of a Muslim scholar who was living in Mecca when he was born, and with his Arabic wife. The family moved back to India when he was young, and he received traditional Islamic education at home. When he came to India from Mecca, this was a sort of turmoil in India subcontinent, because India was ruled by British Raj at that time. So India needs some great leaders which got independence from the British Raj. Azad was his pen name. So he contributed much to the India independence. It was very difficult for him to come journalism or political background, because he belongs to Islamic background, and his father was of course an Islamic theologian. He was living in Mecca, Muslim. He was a Muslim scholar. So Azad became active in journalism when he was in late teen, and in 1912 he began publishing a weekly Urdu magazine by the name Al Hilal. The paper gets high influential for its anti-British stance. He was particularly active in the short-lived Khilafat movement, which defended the Ottoman Sultanate as the Caliph. Actually, we will find the great relationship of Azad with the great leader of the contemporary Mahatma Gandhi ji. Both of them took active participation in Satyagraha campaign and Salt March, which was actually in 1930s. His sacrifices were a lot at the time of the turmoil when the British were creating a lot of haphazard situation at that time. So he was detained several times in 1920s and between 1920s and 1945 for his participation in the anti-war states. Actually, Azad was the youngest president of the Indian National Congress at the age of 35 in 1923. This was an introduction of the Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad. Now let's come to the main characters of the political autobiography. This book revolves around 5 major characters. The narrator, which is Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad himself, the Mahatma Gandhi ji, Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel, and Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. As I said earlier, that it is a political autobiography. It gives people an insight in the continuous struggle of Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad's political life. When Azad became the Congress president on 3rd of September 1939, it was the era of World War II. British India came across various issues and international events, like British government requesting India to take part in the war with China and Japan. When it was the opinions of British government that when war stops, different attitudes were created at that time. When Sir Cripps comes to India for a specific purpose to sort out the problems of Indian people, so his mission was failed. Actually, it was failed due to the selfishness outcome of British government. For this, Azad says a personal note for Nehru, and he says, I am quoting, "I want to make it absolutely clear that Nehru's attitude was not due to any doubt India's freedom. His attitude was a neutral result of his own outstanding of international situation. He was from the beginning confirmed anti-fascist. Actually, this statement is for Jawaharlal Nehru. At the beginning, he was a strong disbeliever of partition. He wants independence from the British government, and actually this statement was said by Jawaharlal Nehru, and it is disbelief nature of Jawaharlal Nehru. Then come the Quit India movement, which are proposed by Congress Working Committee. There are two opinions about Quit India movement. The first one is of Mahatma Gandhi non-violence, and the other one is Abul Kalam Azad views. Maulana Abul Kalam Azad's view. Mahatma Gandhi ji wants a non-violence movement. It was his perception that we will create a movement which is a sort of non-violence. So this Quit India movement failed, and all the great contemporary leaders of India were arrested at Ahmednagar Fort jail. This was the time when Nehru and Azad was writing their respective books, Discovery of India and India Wins Freedom. Maulana Abul Kalam Azad is pointing out to Muhammad Ali Jinnah, there is a big hand in making of Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. It was Mahatma Gandhi ji who made Qaid-e-Azam a great leader. Azad says, and I quote, that it was Mahatma Gandhi who first gave currency to the title Qaid-e-Azam, or a great leader, as applied to Mr. Jinnah. There were a turmoil situation were happening at that time. Then Lord Wavell, which is another minor character, Lord Wavell, he comes to India to sort out the problems of India's subcontinent. He was failed because of a lot of contrast with the different contemporary leaders. The tension, the World War II was end, and then as the British were promised with the people of India that we will sort out your problem after the World War. The British people won the World War II. Then as the mission of Lord Wavell was failed, so then the British government sent Lord Mountbatten for the solution of the problem. So Sardar Patel, which was a character who was first of all the very best friend of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, he was against the partition. But when the situation at that time arose, difficult tension was created among the whole subcontinent. So when Mountbatten comes to India, we will find a difference in the attitude of Sardar Patel. It must be placed on record that the man in India which first fell for Lord Mountbatten idea was Sardar Patel. Actually, this is the lines of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. First of all, he is completely against the partition, but later on, when Lord Mountbatten came, so we will find a complete desertion from his promise. So in fact, Sardar Patel was 50% in favor of the partition even before Lord Mountbatten appeared on the scene. And Jawaharlal Nehru, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad told about Jawaharlal Nehru, and he says, I quote, I warned Nehru that history would never forgive us if we agreed to the partition. The verdict would be that India was divided not by the Muslim League but by the Congress itself. So Maulana Abul Kalam Azad was again making a lot of weight on this sentence that if the partition did occur, so we will not be forgiven by the Muslims in Pakistan or the Indians in Hindustan. So it was a turmoil situation at that time. For the first time, Sardar Patel, Jawaharlal Nehru, they were on one side of the dilemma. So before approaching to Mountbatten, then Maulana Abul Kalam Azad approached to Mountbatten before Gandhiji to stop two-nation theory. He had two-nation theory because there were a lot of massacres at that time. Azad, in his conversation with Mountbatten, if we acted in haste, accepted partition, we could be doing permanent injury to India. Once the country was divided, no one could foresee the repercussions and there would be no retracing of the step, said Azad to Mountbatten in his lodge. Actually, this was the time of strong detention which was created by the Congress leader itself. Sardar Patel and Jawaharlal Nehru, he was of the view that we will neglect the idea of partition, but was felt in his opinion, and all the things for partition was arranged, and the partition did occur, and a divided India became. Communal tension was arise across the borders. It became a river of bloods. Children, men and women were massacred. Entire nation was the pool of hatred and revenge. Muslims in India were massacred. There he takes shelter. And when the Muslims in India were disrespected, so the Muslims came to the house of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, and he took shelter at that time, the people of Muslims of India. Actually, this all is the outcome of Sardar Patel mistake. Azad person's comment about Sardar Patel is, in the same period Sardar Patel was leaving for Bombay. The next morning, he formally spoke to Gandhi and complained that he was no real issue of such fast, said Patel to Gandhi. To this, Gandhi replied calmly, "I'm not in China, not now but in Delhi, nor have I lost my own eyes and ears. If you ask me to disbelieve the testimony of my own eyes and ears and tell me that Muslims have no cause for complaints, I surely cannot convince you, nor can you convince me. Hindus and Sikhs are my brothers. They are the flesh of my flesh, and if they are now blind with it." Actually, Sardar Patel was convincing Gandhiji that Muslims in India are now safe. So it is the situation in front of Gandhiji that now I'm not in China or in other state. I neglect the testimony of that are no hard situation for Muslim in the people of in the subcontinent. Later on, the Mahatma Gandhiji was assassinated at 30th of January 1948. Mahatma Gandhiji was assassinated by Natrom Godse. And at this time, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad wrote that India lost the father of nation, the hope of peace, harmony, love and respect. So this was an era of deep distress, distress for the people of subcontinent. And then a lot of people accused Sardar Patel for the death of Mahatma Gandhiji. And after listening to the whole dilemma, he was died as a result of a heart attack. And sort of an irony come at the mind of the Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah when he was addressing at the presidential election in Karachi. So he says that those Muslims who are in India, they should cooperate and collaborate with the Indian government. So it was an irony because their affinity, their affiliation with the Muslim League, and now Qaid-e-Azam is speaking like that. So it was just an irony for the people of subcontinent. Let me sum up the book. In this book, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad speculate about 2 or 3 different topics. He says after partition, turmoil and massacres will be across the border. And if we now experience the situation, so we are now witness of his view that in India, if we look at the treating of Muslims, so it is all in front of our eyes. And if we look here in Pakistan, so a lot of caste system, a lot of what you can call creed system is there. So his opinion, his speculations comes true. He was actually a very strong supporter of independence, but completely against the partition. He again speculate one more important point about the partition, that Pakistan will be taken over by the dictator after 10 years. And now if we go back to 1958, so of course Pakistan was taken over by a dictator. So his all speculation comes true about both nations, that what will happen, what will not happen. I suggest all of you that please read this book. It will open your eyes, it will open your hearts about a new perspective. Thank you so much.